Hey everyone, Billy Carson here, Forbidden Knowledge, another amazing Forbidden Knowledge podcast. Today I have an amazing guest. His name is 19 Keys. You may know him as 19 Keys on social media. You've probably seen him featured on Earn Your Leisure and other big platforms. He's a huge influencer, a financial literacy expert, and he's also an author. And we're going to talk today about perseverance, hard work, dedication, and also inspiring the youth. What's up, man? How you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Man, it's a blessing to be here. First of all, brother, I appreciate you inviting me here on your platform to come speak to your audience and then just build and cipher with such an intelligent human being.
What made you want to write this book?
Oh, man, a few different things, and that's going to be one of many. But I wanted an intro, right? I have some topics that I really want to go in depth, right? What people will consider higher consciousness, right? Or people will consider, just not a shallow read for the average human being, right? Yeah. So I want to have something that segues them into. Like, I don't want nobody that buys my 19 Keys high-level observations before they get the solution-based mind reprogramming, because some of the questions that I often get is what I answered in the book. Where do I start? Right? So I wanted to give a starting point to a lot of people. And it's funny, Bill, because I often forget that I wrote a book. Yeah. Right? and I actually have several books written on my computer, right? That I just haven't released. And that one probably is going to be the easiest read from a comprehensive standpoint as far as just basic intro knowledge, straight to some solutions, applicable right after you're done reading, right? And so, that book was just about, let me actually put out some literature, because one of the keys metrics of being a thought leader, you understand me, is actually becoming an author, right? So, one of my said goals is to be the greatest thought leader of our generation. And so it has certain industries and certain skill sets and certain criteria in order to meet that, right? So, putting out a book and the rest of the books that will follow is part of that agenda.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. I understand it 1,000%. I realized I was getting big in, the ancient civilizations and talking about technology and all this other kind of stuff. And I realized I'm on all these TV shows. Everyone that I'm on a TV show with, they all have books or authors, and I didn't have one.
Yes.
And I had been thinking about it. Finally I locked down and I put that first book out, and so it definitely makes a lot of sense. It adds another level to your expertise. It makes you, it takes you to that level of, yes, this person is considered an expert, just by putting that book out. A lot of people think about writing books, but never, ever get it done. I have so many people tell me,
And I always tell people that a book is a time machine. Like, it's one of the ways that you can immortalize yourself. You understand me? Like, if you want to begin to secure your legacy, write a book. Right? If you want a stream of income that's infinite throughout time, but there's always new readers being born, write a book. Right? So that's a product that you can sell for the rest of your life, and generations to come can continue to sell under your estate.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head, man. That's a phenomenal that you were able to grasp that concept at a young age, because that really is so true and so key. Man, I noticed that you work with the youth a lot, and what is your agenda behind that? Why are you tapping into the youth?
We know that, my brother Dr. Nuri, not Dr. Nuri, but brother Nuri Muhammad say a youthless movement is a useless movement. You understand me? Because it doesn't get carried into the future, right? We know how paradigms have been created historically, in like Greek and Roman societies, is that they would take a mentorship to a younger boy, you understand me, who grew up with the rebellious mindset to go against the state and the politics and the current world order. And they're going to be radical. They're going to automatically have different ideas. Like, why would I follow this? You have to be trained, programmed, indoctrinated to become civilized in the ways of man. Right? So, speaking to the youth is allowing them to be able to carry on the ideas, you understand me, into the future and produce them. Because evolution to me is not about, just human DNA, right, evolving and taking on traits over time, but it's more so about the mind. You understand me? Because human beings are not that advanced today. If you take the average person that's born today and you drop them off in the 1800s, they're not that valuable.
No.
They couldn't invent anything and not that productive, right?
Looking for the touchpad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, evolution to me is the continuation of what was there before, but, bringing it into the future.
Yeah.
And, civilizations, not our culture, hasn't done a good job at that, right? We like to take our ancestors and pit them against each other. Oh, well, I'm following this one, you following this one. No, each one had a particular frequency that they mastered something on this planet, right? That they left. You take that blueprint and you put it into the youth. I don't care what you follow. Take the best of each one, because when I look at the Wright brothers, and then I can look at Leonardo da Vinci drawings of an airplane, that to me is evolution. You understand me? Taking those ideas and those concepts and building institutions that further throughout time. That's how you evolve a people, a species, a culture. You understand me? So speaking to the youth, make sure that those ideas get carried, that those seeds actually produce fruit later on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I couldn't agree with you more. And I understand what you're saying. You're passing down these thought concepts, these ideas, these esoteric wisdom and understanding, financial literacy, and all these down to the youth so that they can propagate. And really what you're doing is you're creating ripples in the space-time continuum that are altering the future reality in the third dimension. That's really what you're doing. You're actually creating a better future. You're time traveling through consciousness.
Facts.
And that's why it's so powerful, man.
Well, what's beautiful about that is if we look at the country that we living in, right? We talking about the corporation, right?
Yeah.
And how it's set up, right? Man can dominate two different ways, right? To regulate space. This is my territory, spatial territory, right? That's one way of dominance. Then you have man who goes for time territory. This is my age, right? So in order for us to have power, we create institutions. The institutions carry those thoughts into the future, right? Those are the time machines.
Yeah.
A family is an institution. A bank is an institution. Schools are institutions. These are houses that control minds over time. So I think about that because, I always think of the diaspora, right? A lot of my teachers are universal, but I always take in a concept. How can I apply this knowledge to my culture first, right? And then everybody else benefits because, you understand me, if the bottom rail is let up, you understand me, then it increases everyone else. But the beauty of it is that once we can truly understand time, right, and we understand the now and how we can consistently create ripples in time by what we do right now, that, I believe that cause and effect happens at the very exact same moment. You understand me?
Yeah.
I can speak to a child at 12 years old and his destiny is set at 35 to become where that seed lays a foundation to have an effect through events. You understand me? So it's beautiful to create institutions, and focusing on institution projects us in the future, and it changes our language, right? Most of the things that we express, sometimes we can do PTR, past tense reference, right? Or we can go future tense reference, right? And the future tense reference, that's what we speak more in the English language, right? Tomorrow, the next day, next year. We have so many words for later on, right? It was written, I believe it was Robert L. White, and he was speaking on African psychology, and he talked about how there's not too many words for the near future in African language and societies, right? Because, it's more steeped in the present, right? And I thought about that. I said, if we truly think about it, spirituality is being present. You want to be mindful, be present. You want to know the secrets to keeping your mind in control and check, find a way to be present. Steep yourself in the now. But when you can project yourself in the future, that's a Magna Carta. That's a constitution. That's creating a trust. You understand me? And so I study history, Sankofa. I look back while moving forward. You understand me? So that I can give these concepts broken down in a short understanding so that our people can have the type of minds that allow us to build excellence off our brilliance. Because we're very brilliant people, but excellence is the consistency. Excellence is the institutions, it's the programs, it's the strategy. You understand me? I can work very hard at creating organic videos. Somebody else can be excellent at running ads and make millions of dollars.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So We have to learn to bridge our brilliance with our excellence, and that allows us to be a different type of people.
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head, man. That's so real. And a lot of that starts with the deprogramming and reprogramming. But what I really like about going after the youth, especially, if you can get at a kid when they're between the age of 1 and 7, you can really map out their entire future, because that's when they're the most susceptible to learning information, downloading the software from all these different institutions. So the younger you can get them, the better, because even it's easier for a child to learn multiple languages.
That's a fact.
Once you get older, it becomes a lot harder. Yeah, because they're really open in their young age. They're really open.
That's another thing. I teach learning how to learn, right? Because school system messed us up, right?
Tell me about it.
School system destroys our learning ability, our creative learning capacity, right? They say that the average child tested for creativity by age 4, 90% are creative. You understand me? By age 12, right, you're talking about less than 10%. That's because you go through a whole indoctrination process of just taking orders, right? And memorization techniques. It requires no abstract thinking whatsoever. So we become very technical thinkers, just doing as is. We don't become very abstract in our learning process. So I teach people the difference in how to actually become a good learner, right? How to take in information, how to take in difficult concepts so that you can understand them. Right. And once you do that, it makes the process of what they're learning much easier, because now they understand their frustration. Right. Most people, they pick up a new subject. I said, well, let's learn this blockchain technology. Right. Then they start looking in, they start seeing about nodes and stuff, and their brain almost explode. And they turn on Netflix because they need pleasure to distract them from the stress. So it's like, no, listen, like you said, our brain changes over time. At the 25, we are no longer that pattern brain anymore, right? Our brain is seeking wisdom in different ways to create concepts. So if we don't study ourselves, right? We don't study ourselves. With 70, 90% water, we don't study that, right? We are affected by vibration and frequency all around us. We study none of it. We are affected by laws, rules, orders, constitutions. You understand me? We study none of it, right? All of the things that affect us the most, we know the least about, right? But the human brain, there's no reason that everybody on the planet should be experts at the very software and hardware that they have to use every single day to operate on this planet Earth.
Exactly.
And that changes the way we look at ourselves, because we value the things that we know outside of ourselves more than valuing knowledge of self. Right. So my central message is always knowledge of self. That's the enlightenment factor.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's powerful. That's where it's at. That's how you create change on a global scale, because when you start here, it just expands out, and it just continues to multiply. It's powerful, man. That's exactly where it's at. That's how you make change, and that's why I really like the path that you're on and what you're doing. And how you're doing it, how you're moving. I think that you represent, in my opinion, the best of both worlds. You can. I like the fact that, it's not that you're a materialistic person, but you like nice things. You have some nice jewelry. I like your crown. I like your watch. I like the way you present yourself at the same time, because listen, in my personal opinion, we're supposed to bring heaven to earth.
Absolutely.
I'm not supposed to wait till I could die so I can live. I'm saying I'm gonna live right now. And if I can help people, if I can enlighten people, if I can help be a part of changing the world and being part of the change I actually want to see in the world, and at the same time, I can run my businesses and I can acquire nice things and have nice things that I personally enjoy, whatever my personal thing is, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that that's important. And those things go hand in hand, because too many people are being criticized for appearing successful or appearing to have a nice car or a nice necklace or a nice crown or a nice watch or whatever it is, a nice house. And they're being criticized because they're supposed to be knowledgeable. But in some people's minds, or a lot of people's minds, actually, the way they've been programmed, then you're supposed to be, poor, broke, struggling. And those two things, abundance mindset, understanding the power of self and the knowledge within, doesn't go hand in hand with lack of abundance. Those two things don't sync.
Facts.
And so that's why I wrote the book. Woke doesn't mean broke, trying to wake people up to the fact that, hey, it's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. One of my quotes, and you're absolutely correct with everything that you just said, is we have moved. When I first stepped on the scene, the goal is to move the conscious community, right, from this debating, bickering, back and forth style community, and we go into a solutions community. I made a statement, and Brother Rich got mad at me. I said, the conscious community is dead. He called me, brother, what is you talking about? You can't say that. I'm like, listen, that you got to finish the rest of it.
Yeah.
I said, the conscious community is dead, but something else better is going to rise in this place. Mm-hmm. You understand me? And not dead in a physical sense.
Yeah.
You understand me? But dead in this, there's no motion, there's no forward movement. Mm-hmm. You know, the goal is say, you know what? Number one, we need resources. Malcolm X always said that. You understand me? It's a lack of resources.
Yeah.
But so when I thought about that, I say, well, we got to move the paradigm from this poor righteous teacher, right? But see, the way you come in the door is the way you got to stay.
Yeah.
Right? The way you gain power is the way you keep power. So oftentimes when someone comes in with a certain brand, an impression is set in the mind. Mm-hmm. This is a poor righteous teacher. If he gets money, he must be selling out. Mm-hmm. If he starts to flash materialism, oh, he must be going the other way. Mm-hmm. So you have to come in with the central message and the vision already. And I knew my vision had to be different. I knew my branding had to be different. So the goal was, no, we were creating the paradigm of the rich and righteous.
Yeah.
You understand me? We are creating the paradigm of conscious with cash, wealthy and enlightened. And I wanted the youth and all of those that take a look at it to see a different type of paradigm that now exists, to where I gotta be a rapper, I gotta be nothing else. Like I can be conscious and still make my way, right? If you have a deep level of metaphysical understanding of the world, the laws of the universe, you can decipher emerald tablets and the Metanetia and all these great things, but you can't materialize nothing on the planet Earth. How do I know your mind really works if you can't bring anything into fruition?
Exactly.
So it is not about being materialistic, but it is about materializing.
Everything you said is perfect, and that's exactly accurate. It's incredible because I'm on the same frequency with you, man, for real on this one, because that's where it's got to be. And people have to understand, like, you know, if you see me driving around in a Rolls Royce or doing a live inside of my Rolls Royce, or maybe you see me, I'm wearing a Richard Mille or something like that, you know, it's attention. You can have the most beautiful website in the world that has all the bells and whistles that can process this and process that, automatically contact people, make them run a reorder and all that, give them discounts. But if nobody knows the web address,
that's a fact. That is a fact.
What good is it?
Yes, sir.
You got to get the attention. That's why certain content you put out, you grabbing attention from specific groups of people. You know exactly who you're targeting. Certain things I put out, I'm grabbing attention from specific groups of people. And I'm reeling them in, is what I'm doing, reeling them in. And then all of a sudden they start getting the knowledge, they start getting the information. You know, the people that you're engaging with, you know, they're starting to get the information, get the knowledge, get the idea, the understanding, start to research, study, learn. Money is as a side effect of that in their bank account. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about. You know, so and you know, the people who don't get it, sometimes they just don't want to get it. You know, but fortunately, I think the majority of people are really starting to get it now. You know, yeah.
You know, a lot of people have waken up, and you know, you're going to get less pushback as the years go. You have to understand that this generation is completely different from all previous ones because they weren't here for all of those conscious shifting events that really make and manufacture the minds that we're dealing with today. Because when I'm dealing with the youth, I have to understand their mind, right? And I have to empathize, right? Their experience level is different. They're dealing with so much information overload.
Man.
They're exposed to so much, right? And their brains are trying to connect patterns, but there's so much to connect that it's impossible for them to gain any true substance with real understanding without having focused directive.
Right.
So this generation needs guidance, right? When you have the internet, Google at your fingertips, how can you focus?
Yeah.
When you have so much access? Access is the new wealth, but only if you can learn to quantify it and control it and direct it in the right particular manner, and you have a vision set with that access. Otherwise, it can be a liability, right?
Yeah.
Because you can find yourself scrolling for hours. That's literally your mind just lost in a loop. It's stuck.
Yep.
It's,
Yeah, man.
it's like a mosquito and sap. You understand me? You got stuck there now. You can't get out. So if you can develop stronger minds, then you build a stronger society. You create a stronger generation and future to where they actually start utilizing all of this access, and could be the greatest generation civilization has ever seen, simply because you have more resources than any civilization on the planet Earth. You understand me? As far as known history, by just having blockchain technology and the internet, iPhones, right? And then just the amount of population that exists here on the planet Earth now in the first place. There's so many different ways to capitalize off being alive in this time.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's what people, they don't realize it sometimes, because they're programmed to think, go to school, get a good job, go or go to college, get a good job, get married and have some kids.
Right.
And they think that that's the only, but there's so many ways to capitalize these days. It's almost endless. And every day I discover a new way that someone is making money, that someone is earning a living. It's like, oh, wow, damn. I mean, there's no excuse to be broke. There's like literally, if you live in America, especially if you're living in America, there's no excuse. I was in Egypt for 3 weeks. I went to Abydos. I was out there cutting through Abydos. Now, the whole entire Egypt, the people are living in extreme poverty, first of all. The average income is $100 a month, $100 a month, US version, $100 a month, which equates out to about 1,200 Egyptian pounds a month. Okay. And they're all living in a lot of collapsed structures and structures that are ready to collapse. And I'm talking about the entire country. I'm not talking about like one little area. I'm talking about the entire country. There's a couple of small pockets where some palaces and some nice little neighborhoods where the politicians and the wealthy businessmen live. The rest of it is in extremely poor condition. And so we're cutting through Abydos, and this place looks even worse than what I had saw in Cairo or Karnak or Luxor. It's so bad. It looked like I drove into an old Wild Wild West scene. Yeah. It looked like a movie set.
Yeah.
These kids are out there, man, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, doing the job of full-grown men, working 8 to 10 hours a day. Hard labor. And I told my Egyptologist, we were cutting through there, I said, if you take any one of these kids to America with this work ethic, they become rich in 5 years. They become a millionaire in 5 years. And then we have the people here that are sitting around, they're holding me back and I can't get this done and nobody wants to see me make it, that kind of stuff. And I'm going, no, man, it's your mind that's not letting you make it. Yeah. Yes, there's been situations that happened to us, but I've been around this planet. I've seen what these kids are living in, and I've seen what they're having to overcome on a daily basis just to have bread and water. And so I realized, man, wow, we have a lot of opportunities here, and a lot of people don't realize how great the opportunities are and the different ways that you can capitalize and create revenue for yourself here in the world, especially if you live in America. It's not by means anymore, not the perfect country on the planet, but the opportunities are definitely there. And a lot of these countries, you don't even have access to the internet. It's limited. You're just restricted. No Facebook, no TikTok, no Twitter, no this, no that. You know what I'm saying? No WhatsApp in certain areas. If you can take WhatsApp, but you can't make WhatsApp. All these countries got all these different rules. Right. And so a lot of the people are just really restricted. Here, it's pretty much wide open, for now. So you got to take advantage of that. You know what I mean?
For now is the key in that. Yeah. You definitely, I always say gratefulness is the tactic to win the war of life. Right? I did a podcast on it, and it was basically saying, go look at Al Jazeera News. And go compare your life to somebody who's living in a foreign country, you understand me, a third world country, and think about the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis, and they can still smile. When I went to South Africa, I visited Orange Town, and they living in these 10 by 10 cubicles, you understand me, and often they have 3 to 4 children, a family, right? And very, very high poverty. They have one school and the children are running around. The grounds are not done. The unemployment rate is so high. You understand me? It's skyrocket. Damn. And they don't have many opportunities, but the children seem to be the happiest human beings I ever met in my life.
Wow.
yes, we can always look at something bleak. We can look behind the curtain and realize, man, this is a messed up system, how they got us all bonded by, right? Yeah. Their paperwork, right? Yeah, you start looking at the papal bull history and stuff, and then you look at the medical institutions and the political institutions, and things could get bleak for you. Mm-hmm. But then you could, think about your liberties that you do have, right? And the mind that you have to make change and manifest every single day, mm-hmm. and the resources that you can get, even if you don't have them right now. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, all you got to do is change your mindset. Somebody in another country got to change their whole geographical location. They got to leave the country. They got to become a refugee to get the opportunities. But you only got to change your mindset. Mm-hmm. So I focus, I say it's 80% mindset, 20% skill set. Yeah. With the right mindset, you can master any skill set. Mm-hmm. So the focus of teaching a person how to change their mind, right, that allows them to be able to take advantage instantaneous of opportunity. Mm-hmm. Right? A person can do an audit of their past and change the perspective on a thought and change their whole entire past. That's how you time travel. Take an audit of your life in the past, right, and think about those trigger points, those things that really made you who you are, because now you have a more mature opportunity to look at it from a wise point of view. But you may be stuck, frozen in time the way that you felt at that moment. But I've done an audit of my entire life. I went through every single series, every event that shaped me and who I am. Either I had to forgive myself or I had to see a different perspective, right? Or to just look at it from a non-judgmental and a higher level observational point in a third dimensional aspect that, well, that's who you were then. You had to react that way. That was your programming. That was your environment. That made your mind, which created your reaction, right? So do you judge yourself based on predetermined conditions that you couldn't have changed? Or do you allow yourself to see who you are now and how you flourish past those moments, right? In this moment in time, I can choose to be focused. I can choose to be present. I can choose to be happy, and I can decide on what my future is going to be by creating a plan.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's so powerful. That's exactly what it is. And that's the process of doing the inner work, putting yourself in check. So many people don't want to check themselves,
No.
You got to realize that at some point, man, if being born again, in my personal opinion, is when you raise your level of consciousness. Right. And you look back at your previous level, to me, and you'll be born again many times in the same lifetime because of that. If you're not, then you're stagnant and you're not really growing. And you're doing the inner work and you're realizing who you are, what you're capable of doing, where you were and where you're going. And then, pulling your jock straps up and say, man, I got to go to work. It's time for me to put energy behind these thought processes now.
Listen, so there's different ways and different pathways, and I created a roadmap of understanding because I like to conceptualize ways to understand and how to become a better teacher. So, it first started off with motivation, right? You give people motivation, give them a reason, give them a push, right? Yell at them, incentivize them with beautiful words and rhythmatic tonality and whatever way you can. Try to motivate a person. But then at a certain point in time, specifically as we become introduced to so much awareness, that's not enough, right? I need more than motivation, man. I always say motivation without instruction is dangerous, right? It's like giving a person a steroid and not teaching them how to stretch and work out. They're going to hurt themselves. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to build muscle, right? So instead, after we go from motivation, then we go to inspiration, right? Inspiring a person by doing it yourself. They see you do it. I am so inspired. It conjures something up within that person, right? That's already there, but now they can see themselves doing it as well, right? So you lead by example. Then we move from leading to example and say, damn, man, I've been inspiring these folks. There's still some lazy folks that ain't getting it. I want to reach more people. So then we go to education. Well, let me teach them how I did it then. You understand me? Listen, this is how I got into crypto and blockchain, and this is how I started selling nootropics, and this is how I got into online space and start being influential and traveling the world and taking my mind to different dimensions and different heights, and this is how I became who I am today. Let me teach you the process. Let me give you the game on financial literacy, education, everything you need to set yourself up in life. Then, Billy, that's still not enough for some people.
I know.
Yeah.
So, I know.
you got to go to instruction. You got to lay out. Oh, no, hey, I got to hold your hand now. Step one, do this. I'll give you the next step when you're done with this. Instructions.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going to give you the detailed baby instruction type education. Right? Follow this. Can't lose. Right? Then, when we haven't got there yet, because that the edge between education, inspiration, education, and instruction, that's enough to teach society where it's at. But we're getting to a point where that's not going to be enough. And the next phase has to be automation, right? I have to automate this process for you. You tell me what you want to do, and I'll create an automated process. You just get the money you pay for. We'll take it through the whole process for you. You want to trade stocks? Well, guess we got to build an artificial intelligence bot. You understand me? You want to have your business ran? We'll build a bot for that. We'll build a team behind that. They'll run it for you. We'll have a consulting agency or something. We'll have somebody automate this process for you. And that's really, if you take that roadmap that I just gave, you can build a company behind that. You can build a whole educational course behind that. That's really game that a person can take and utilize as their tiered out plan towards their business development. You understand me? And in the future, everything will be automated. You understand me? Mobilization, automation, digitization. And on the flip side, that creates what I call the SADs: stress, anxiety, depression, suicide. Right? So as you got to become a mad scientist, you have to know mobilization, automation, and digitization. If not, you will be working for those who figured it out.
That's right. For sure. That's guaranteed. That is guaranteed. Yeah. And you hit it on the head again. You know, I create these courses and I do these workshops. I probably have, I don't know, 30 or 40 workshops out there now. You know, people pay to come to these courses. And now I'm just now starting to see more people really applying the knowledge. Little by little. So what I did was I said, okay, let me create a private group. So I'm about solutions as well. You know, some of these big platforms, they start tripping. I created my own platform. You know, I put a private group on there for every single workshop I'm doing now. So the last one was teaching how to trade stock options. I said, okay, the first time I did it, it was too many questions, emails. I'm afraid to get started, all this stuff. I said, I'm going to make a private group for you guys. I'm going to teach you this class for 5 hours. I'm going to put you in my private group. Then I'm going to go in there and I'm going to drop my trades every day. I'm going to interact with you guys. But my goal is that eventually you all start to trade and help with one another, dropping information, knowledge, news, updates, and you know, and so forth. Your perspective on what a stock may or may not do. And so it started out, it was purely just me in that group, and I was massaging them every single day. And all of a sudden, it started gradually. Oh wow, boom! I made some money. People started posting their earnings. Then gradually, people started, you know, talking to one another and saying, "Oh, what about this? What about that? What about this earnings call? What about it?" So now I massage it to a point now where they're actually in there and people are in there making money on a consistent basis. But I had to create that environment, you know what I'm saying, for that to happen. And I had to go in there and I had to really massage it, you know. And if I don't massage those little environments, then the people would just come get the courses and walk away, and only 1% will actually ever do anything with it, you know.
That's a super fact. You understand me? And community development is super key right now. If you don't have a community, then your brand doesn't have a future. You understand me? You have to go away from just marketing to pure branding, right? Branding is going to solidify you a space in real estate here over time, especially as the algorithm, you understand me, takes over people's lives, and everybody's lives is going to be automated and set. When I say thought leader, my favorite thought leader is in my personalized algorithm based on these data sets will pull up. When I say water, the type of water that I drink is going to be delivered. If you don't have a brand, you don't get into people's algorithm. You understand me? And so you're going to be trying to market when everybody's going to have their life automated. So the goal is to create such a strong brand and a brand presence. But people are so focused on selling that they don't build clientele, they don't build relationship, and they don't build community. If you build a system, a course, right, then you build a community, you're creating a campus, right? And people learn to better together in groups, right? And they do alone. So the benefit for a lot of these different courses and things is the community aspect. I'm around people who know more than me. I'm around people who know less than me. That gives me the opportunity to learn something, give me opportunity to teach something, right? that is a true tribal environment. The school system has messed us up because the school system told us we're not supposed to collaborate. If I look at somebody else's paper and they tell me the answer, it's cheap, right? So we took that mentality through our life when the tribe was like, no, you got elders there, you got young there, so you got wisdom and ignorance there at the same time. You understand me? They're all learning from each other. You got the past, the present, the future, all learning from each other, allowing this human being to truly take shape in the right form instead of one master and everybody else just listen. Y'all soldiers, I'm the master. I'll tell you what to think, when to think. And if you think that and you memorize what I tell you to memorize, then you get a grade. You are now incentivized for better behavior to continue to do the same thing over and over and over. Now, this was first started by B.F. Skinner, right? He came up with the token economy, how to incentivize behavior through reward or punishment, right? And, you know, he had a lot of controversial theories and ways and things of that nature, but it was very brilliant in his dissecting of understanding the human mind and human behavior, right? So he knew that human beings act off two things that create consistency. When you interact with one thing, it's going to be either reward or punishment. If I jump in to a crypto, let's say it was FOMO, fear of missing out. Somebody told me about it. I got in. The price shot up. That's a reward for me. Guess what I want to do? I want to buy some more. Whether we know it or not, we've been following that model behavior our whole lives through grading systems, getting a star on the test. Well, we don't naturally study. You are incentivized to study. I'll give you an A if you study, right? Some people study right there or do their homework that last day because they know the reward, right, is going to be, I finished this and I got to turn it in tomorrow. So they're thinking about the future now. When at first, I ain't getting no reward for finishing this early. I don't feel like doing this. I do it when it's ready. Yeah. Most children are lazy or considered to be lazy, but they like, I do it when I'm ready because the punishment is not right there present, nor is the reward, right? But when you understand how to tokenize behavior, and I talked about this before, is, you know, I use Chicago as an example because of the crime, right? They say most people died in Chicago, right? Then from the C-19, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So when I think about that, I say, well, how can you tokenize better behavior? How can you use the blockchain to change the world, right? Specifically, I've been talking about the thesis of utilizing the blockchain to help our community and culture for a very long time, right? But if I go to Chicago and I give a neighborhood that has the worst crime rate, right? Because number one, we know that a lack of resources, right, creates criminality. Food deserts create criminality, right? So how about I give each one of those citizens a wallet, right? A digital wallet. So now you have the digital wallet and you get your neighborhood coin, right? Whatever that street is, that's your neighborhood coin, right? Now, here's the key. You know how many millions and billions of dollars are spent to try to deter and figure out crime? Right. What if it was spent directly just giving the money to the people to incentivize behavior to change crime, right? Now, I know that if I go shoot somebody, you understand me, everybody is losing. So now everybody's incentivized to make sure you don't do something stupid. The gang leader, you understand me, he want to make sure his boys don't go out there and do nothing stupid. Maybe he gets a bigger reward. Because he no longer becomes a violent criminal anymore, right? Now he is a activist, right? Now he is a community leader, right? You can do that with cleaning up the streets. You can do that with education, right? They have staking education. If I stake, and for those who don't know what staking is essentially where you take your cryptocurrency and you have a vesting period to where it is earning interest and you're not trading on it, right? So it's going to earn more interest than, let's say 10% over 3 months, right? So while that's staking and I'm holding it there on that cryptocurrency exchange, and I get access to education, right? So all of the lessons that they have on there now have access as I'm keeping my money in their bank, essentially, right? And now that we're moving in this facet, we have to, and I teach NFTs a lot, we have to think about better ways, and I call that funginomics. That's my coin term right there.
Nice.
Right. Then we got tokenomics. But once you understand these two concepts, this is a whole new stream of income to build wealth. So excuses, I was always taught, are tools that build monuments of nothingness. When you see a person that has nothing, it's because they built their life out of excuses. You You understand me? And some people got a whole lot of nothing because they got a whole lot of excuses.
Oh man, yeah.
Right? Reason, when you find a reason, you can only build with mathematics. You understand me? Mathematics is the language of the universe, right? That's tangible. That is consciousness. That is logic. That is rationality. When you are thinking in a rational way, you will always find a reason and a way to produce your will into reality. So the reason I teach technology to, right, the downtrodden, the forgotten, the last educated, the biggest consumers, you understand me, is to eliminate the excuses so we can start building.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, that's powerful, man. That's real powerful. That is phenomenal. A plan like that would definitely work. Just the right people have to be on board to press the right button to make it happen.
Absolutely. You know how it works, man. Once you put shape to it, you understand me, and you take a precept and it becomes a concept, it will be done.
Yeah.
Right now that it's vibrating in the universe, I'm freely giving.
Yeah.
To whoever is going to produce it. Right now that you have the concept, take that condensed energy, right, and go execute with it. Because if the mayor in Chicago, I think her name is Littlefoot, right? If she was to hear that soundbite, right, it could give her some ideas. She would be on the map. Yeah. Her reward would be like, wow, I probably would. This would be a very progressive plan, yes. But let's run the numbers. Could it work? We tried everything else. We've increased our military, the police through military positions, right? We have all the community leaders and churches, because what a lot of people don't see is all of the work that does happen on the ground, right? The Muslims and Christians and activists and community people that are out there 1,000 times all the time trying to figure and help this thing out. Nothing is working. Yeah. So if you try something progressive like that, you go down in history, Littlefoot. I think that's her name. I hope so.
I think it is, yeah.
So, that's part of my strategy. You understand me? Giving the game. And if you take it, you'll be rewarded if you use it.
Oh, man, for real. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So, brother, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me, Billy, man. And anything I can do for you, let me know. You understand me? I look forward to building with you further.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again. I appreciate it.